Hi FlossTube, it's Stephanie from Stephanie's Tiny X's, and I would say I'm here to do an update, but it's been since September of 2017 since I've done an update video, and yeah, there's so much to update that it's gonna take a minute. So first of all, where have I been? So I stopped filming back in September of 2017 because I think it was July that I bought two parakeets, one blue and one green, and the blue one is Sherlock and the green one is Watson. And at the time, where we were living, all of our living space was on one floor, and they make quite a bit more noise than I anticipated, which meant that when I tried to film anywhere on that floor, you could hear them in the background. And that's fine when it's just like their normal chatter, but when they're feeling particularly rambunctious and they start screeching, that tends to not make for good listening. So I just stopped entirely. So that was September, around the time that I gave up that. Then we kind of hit just pure chaos in February of 2018. My husband got sick with vertigo really bad, like couldn't get himself out of bed. Real bad vertigo. We've been together now not quite 15 years, and it's the first time that I've seen him be sick. So it was pretty bad. So he was working through that. I had a Tupperware party and decided to be a Tupperware consultant, and I thought I was going to get deep into that. So I signed up for that, started doing stuff with Tupperware, started going to meetings, things like that, business meetings. Those were like once a month, having, just doing parties, things like that. Not doing that anymore, a little over a year later. So I only mentioned that because that was at like the I think it was the 22nd of February. Then we went on, I think it was an 7-day cruise in March, at the very beginning of March, maybe mid-March last year. So we went on a cruise. I remember specifically, I took a small little frosted pumpkin stitchery. I don't even remember what it said, but it was something about lucky. It's one of their little squares. And I took that with me thinking, oh, I'll have this done before the end of March, thinking if I took it on the cruise and got it started, that when I got home, that I'd be finishing it up. I don't think I finished that until October or November of 2018. So that just kind of explains the chaos that was my life it's been about a year now. So when we came back from the cruise, we weren't sure how far we were going to make it. We flew out of Miami to Chicago, and then we weren't sure if we were going to make it from Chicago to Moline, Illinois, which is just a small little airport. We made it, but we couldn't make it home because the snow was so bad in the middle of March. Anyway, so we were just getting back from the blizzard. And after we got home, I think maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks after we got back from the cruise, my husband started training to become a licensed banker, I think it was. It's not even been a year, and I can't even remember what that was about. So he was training, which was nice because he had been commuting an hour to work every day and an hour back every day. And so he got to stay in town to train. Anyway, so he was doing that training in April. It was really nice because he was able to be home and we didn't have, he was getting home. 6 was a good night because the bank closed at 5. It was typically 6:30, sometimes 7 if there was something going on. And so that's when I was able to do previously a lot of my FlossTube videos, is because of that commute. So he started doing the training, and the day after he passed the training, which he was one of a very few that do it the first time through. There's 3 separate sections, and he passed all 3 sections the first time around. And he's one of the few who do that, percentage-wise. So the day after, he decided, it was a Friday, and he decided, it was a Friday? Yeah, it was a Friday. And he decided to take that day off. I still worked, and about midday, or I don't remember. I just remember getting a phone call saying that there may be a position opening up, but it wasn't local. So he was, there had been some ups and downs. He'd applied for the same position in the town that we lived in, and he didn't get that job. And this one opened up. I don't even remember how long it was after that. And so he, since he had applied for the previous position, they let him know, hey, this position is opening, just in a different location. So we kind of talked about it, and he had pretty much reached his potential where he was at. So we decided to go ahead and apply. Now, he decided to go ahead and apply. I don't know if I said we. I didn't mean we. But he decided to apply. I wasn't going to hold him back if this is what he wanted to do. At the same time, we had a two major hailstorms the previous spring, but we didn't think that our roof had been that damaged. So we had an assessor come out in October of the previous year, and they said, yeah, your roof is completely totaled. You need a whole new roof. Which was fine. That was fine. We had the insurance. We decided that we were going to make some improvements. At the time, we had a dormer window that needed to be replaced, and there's a little section that we decided we wouldn't decide. We treated it as if we were going to continue to be still living there and making the improvements as if that were still going to be our case. We weren't going to not make them, assuming that we wouldn't be there anymore. So, and that started the week after he had completed his training. So that started. The interview, I think, the interview was at the beginning of June, end of May, beginning of June. I'm not sure. It's all a blur right now. And basically, I know that we came over to the town to check it out, to see if it was something we would even be willing to relocate to live in, because that's a big part of it. So we were over here a few times before hearing anything back, just to kind of decide, look at what was available apartment-wise, house-wise, that kind of thing. We didn't want to purchase if we did move, because we weren't sure of the layout of the town. So we ended up finding out mid-June, I think it was, that he got the position, and we accepted. So we moved 2 hours away, which I think is probably a good first relocation. He had never lived outside of his town, and I lived 10 miles south of the town that we lived in growing up. So yeah. So we moved 2 hours. However, that kind of left me in the lurch a little bit. We knew this was going to be a thing, So I had to talk to my work. And a lot of what we do is on the computer now. It wasn't always that way. And really, I've been doing my job now for almost 10 years. I'm not bragging when I say that I am pretty much the most knowledgeable person in our organization for the position that I'm in. And I love what I do, and I didn't want to quit. So I had to go to them and bring the idea that I could work remotely if it's something that they would be interested in doing. And I've never been so nervous in my whole life because I wasn't quitting yet, or hoping not to at all. And my heart rate spiked to like, I think it was, I can't remember. I've got the picture on my phone, but it was really high when I had to go tell them. And then I think I had to wait like a week and a half before I heard anything back, because nobody had ever done that in our office before. So I was the first person that they allowed to work remotely, which is great. So that was, another part of the puzzle that fell into place. Then we signed a lease on a house, and it was half the size of the space that we had in our previous town in Illinois. And we were lucky enough to get a storage unit that was climate controlled and monitored. And it was an 8x8 space. So the next thing that we had to do was work on deciding what to take over and what not to take over, because we were in this stage of our life, in our marriage, where a lot of our stuff was starting to need to be replaced. We were very fortunate, and most of our furniture was used and gifted to us, which we desperately needed when we got married. But we were kind of getting to that point where we needed to start replacing stuff. So it was a matter of, is it worth moving 2 hours away, potentially having to store it, or having it taking up space in a house that was less than 600 square feet. So we trashed about 15 contractor bags, which stand about as tall as I do. And we donated just as many contractor bags. So that's 30 bags of stuff that we got rid of. And then we had to start boxing everything up and deciding what we actually absolutely needed and what we did not need. So I moved over to Iowa in August, and a lot of my cross-stitch stuff got packed up because it wasn't strictly necessary. I left most of the stuff I could get to if I needed to. But like I said, I think I only ended up finishing the Lucky Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. I feel like there was a second one that I finished, but I honestly don't remember. So yeah, a lot of our stuff was packed for a period of time. We were hoping to we signed a year lease. And within 7 days of signing that lease in June, we were told that an investor had approached our landlords and wanted to potentially buy the property, and was it okay for them to come look at the house? Well, what are you gonna say? No, it's not your property. You're just renting it. So of course I told them, congratulations. This is their one property type situation. So yeah, sure, it's fine. Let them come look. And we just kind of hung tight to see what would happen. And then in mid-July, my husband noticed people slowing down when they would drive by the house and stopping and kind of staring, which seemed really weird and also super paranoid. So I did a quick Google search of the address. It had a real estate listing, and that had not been disclosed to us when we signed the lease. So basically we were going to have people, and I mean, the thing that happens when you put a house up on the market with a real estate agent, people are going to want to look at it. They didn't, like I said, they didn't disclose it. It ended up being a big source of contention, and mainly because I work from home, and that's a huge intrusion, especially when you didn't know it was going to be happening. Anyway, it really soured the relationship, and we started house hunting mid-October. Didn't expect to find anything. We weren't going to jump on anything if we didn't feel like it was something we wanted. We had some pretty solid expectations of what we wanted. I wanted a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. Sorry. We only had one bathroom. Oh my goodness. We'd only had one bathroom for the 11 years that we'd been married and had our previous home. And I decided we may not have kids, but if we had had kids, you better believe he would have been putting another one in while we were there. But since it was just the two of us, it was what it was. So this time I wanted 2 bathrooms, or at least a bath and a half, and 3 bedrooms, because we knew that since I was going to be working from home, one of those were going to have to be an office, not a bedroom. So, and he wanted a 2-car garage because we'd only had a 1-car garage, and he wanted a 2-car garage. So those were kind of our expectations. And we found a house that we did like. The market was kind of crazy here in Iowa. It's definitely a lot different than where we came from in Illinois. And I don't know what the difference was, but I'm not even going to bother to speculate. But the housing that we were looking at was probably, I don't know, we probably would have paid 20 to 30 grand less for this house from where we were from. So you had that kind of sticker shock to start off with. And then the housing market moved fast, and that was true of rentals and of houses. I mean, when we were trying to find a rental, things got snapped up so quickly, it was insane. So we probably signed a lease faster than we should have. But anyway, my husband had to have a place to live. And so when we found this house, basically, statistically, there weren't going to be very many houses on the market for what we were looking for. There are not a lot of garages here. It's very odd coming from Illinois, from where we're from, where everybody has a minimum 1 garage for every vehicle that you have. It's very unusual to not have a garage of some kind. And here, gosh, we looked at a house that was $120,000. No garage, not even a carport, no covered anything, just gravel, not even well-maintained gravel that you just pulled up into. So when we found our house, we decided to go ahead and move in on it. We put in an offer. They countered. We had all of the inspections done. We had certain repairs made. We put in the offer, I think, on October 31st. October 30th or October 31st. We didn't sign on the house until December 14th. And then we were still maintaining the rental. And things they didn't get sticky, but basically, without getting into too many unnecessary details, we are out of the lease. Effective March 1st. So that got things down to just, now we have to just finish focusing on unpacking. We spent our first week on an air mattress. We moved everything over in bits. We had a U-Haul with just the 2 of us, and I am not a strong person, so my husband did most of the lifting. So we had a U-Haul for 24 hours, which I thought he was insane because in order to utilize the U-Haul, we had to do both our rental and the storage unit. It's a lot of stuff. But we did it, mostly him. And since then, we've been unpacking here and there. With the weather, it's been insane. I mean, we had freezing rain, we had snow, we had more snow, we had rain, we had freeze, we had some more snow. Basically, it's really hard to unpack when you're planning on putting some of the stuff, mostly like empty boxes and such, into the shed, and you can't get to the shed. So we're really starting to, today was the first day that it was above the 40s. So today it was 60 degrees, I think. So we're really going to start getting unpacked and ready to go. Now that we're probably 15 minutes into this video. So basically, just to summarize real quick, lots of moving, 2 moves, 1 2 hours away, 1 within town, but by ourselves. We did have relatives help move us over here, mainly his parents, and then and we had plenty of offers for help, but when we moved over from Illinois, really a lot of it wasn't necessary because we were moving into such a small house. And we had just as many offers in January when we moved everything over. So it was more because we didn't want to inconvenience anybody. But also, you know, we had 2 moves within a year, and life has been unsettled, but it's starting, knock on wood, to settle down now. So I am filming from an entirely new location, not just a different room in my old house. And yeah, so I really wanted to get back. I think it was January, might have been, no, it was definitely January when I said I wanted to try to film. And I did film. I filmed almost an hour and a half worth of footage, but I needed a new phone. I filmed from my phone, and it was an iPhone 6s Plus, which was not a bad phone, except for that apparently at some point it had been dropped. I dropped it once, and then my husband at one time we were goofing around, and he smacked the top of the table, and he had smacked the table so hard near my phone that it popped into the air and fell onto the floor. But at some point, and I didn't know this, the speaker and the volume thing, microphone, like all of that got jumbled up. It didn't occur to me that it would affect the microphone. I knew that it affected, for sure, the speaker. So when I went to go back and listen to it to try to start to edit it down to upload, all you could hear in the background was like, you could hear me very clearly, but it sounded like I had a fan right by the microphone, and it annoyed me so much that I thought, no, I'm not gonna do this. I had a bunch of haul, but I don't even know. I mean, it's been 2 months since then, so I'm not going to try to pull back through and figure out what it is I had purchased. And I think I've even put some of it away, so it would kind of be redundant anyway. So basically I'm probably not even really going to edit this down that much. I'll have to string it together from the different takes, since I'm convinced that somebody is in this house with me, or wants to be. But I have 2 whips that I'm currently really just focusing on. Having gone through the move and working on 1 whip for like 12 months is a year, dummy. I don't know. There's a lot of months where I didn't get very much done at all. So it's really helped me focus on trying to either stick to a better rotation or just stick to stitching 1 until I'm done, which I'm not sure how I feel about that yet. We'll see. I have some pretty specific goals, so we'll kind of see what happens after those goals are done. So I did treat myself to a few things after we moved in, and One of them is a So Much to Love bag. It's Beauty and the Beast, and then it's just got polka dots on the inside. So I adore Beauty and the Beast. And I had a friend who made me a book sleeve in this fabric. And I also, I think, made my own bag out of this fabric. It's not nearly as nice as this one. It is very high quality and I do like it. I had, good, still there. So I purchased the 2 stitch-alongs one from Cloud's Factory, called Humans After All, I think it is. But it's the monthly stitch-along. And I'm still in January, as you can tell. I'm almost done. I just have to finish up Shakespeare here, and what I'm assuming is Northanger Abbey. Is that a thing? Westminster? Is it Westminster? Northanger's the book, isn't it? Anyway, the little building over here, and then Shakespeare's quill, and the rest of his pants and shoes. And then January will be done. So what I want to do for March for this is try to get through March done. It's already the 11th, so I'm not really super sure how much I'm going to actually accomplish. But I'm doing it on the called for fabric in linen over to, I think it's on Ancient, if I remember correctly. I just bought the kit because I was at a point in my life when this was announced that I was just like, listen, I don't have time. I don't have time to try to figure it out. I don't have time to try to piece it out. Just send it to me. And I think I got the Grime Guard from Stormborn Boutique. I think it's Outlander. I figured it was appropriate since Human After All is kind of going over the history of the world kind of situation. They did send a floss keeper, floss organizer for Humans After All. And I don't know if I just made the cardboard too weak with the holes that I made in it, or if I just don't know how to pull the thread off properly, which is entirely possible. But they didn't end up working. So I, in the process of unmoving, unearthed all my Stampin' Up! Stuff because, yeah, I was a demonstrator for that too. And I used my hole punches from that time to make my thread keeps. And then I just, let's see if I can just loop it on and then pull off thread as needed. And then when I have something that I've already used, the excess goes on a secondary loop. And, oh, it's backwards. It's got to be a setting somewhere because it's never been that way before. Anyway, so this is the DMC number and the symbol on the pattern. And that seems to be working quite well for now. And then I decided to go ahead and I'm working on a Haid. I do like the idea of working on full coverage on the weekends. Right now my weekends mostly consist of unpacking or visiting family back in Illinois. But when we're home, weekends, like I said, have mostly been unpacking. They're also for grocery shopping and things like that. But I also get chunks of time where I can sit down and work on a Haid. So, there we go. This is a Treasure Hunt bookshelf, and I think I started it in January back when I thought, oh, 1,200 stitches for the full coverage fanatics group. That'll be nothing. It's so easy to sit down and stitch now that I live in a house. I have a problem with being overly ambitious and not understanding my limitations. Because as you can clearly see, I think I have not quite 500 stitches in. All done within the same weekend though. I mean, so there's that. But I really, really like the Treasure Hunt bookshelf. I wanted to do a full-sized Haid. I think a lot of the ones that I have going right now are minis. And then on top of that, I wanted to see what it looked like this is on 18 count Aida. The 25 count was, to be honest, it was a bit much for me. I did not like stitching with one thread because I couldn't loop start. So I wanted to see what it would look like on 18 count Aida. If it was just like the feel of it that was different, or of the fabric, or if the stitching actually looked different. And to be honest, I think the stitching looks better on 18 count over 2 instead of 25 count over 1. 18 count 2 over 2 instead of 25 count 1 over 1. My stitches were starting to, on the 25 count, and it's probably my skill level, not the way that they look, because most people do them 25 count. They were starting to look a bit bulky, or the black was more see-through. I mean, you could see the white fabric underneath, and I didn't like that. And I know that's a coverage thing, that's a thread thing, but I don't know, I'm really happy with the 18 count. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. There's one other thing that I've learned this year, and that's to do what makes me happy and not worry about what it's supposed to be or how other people do it or any of those other things. And so I will stitch my Haid on 18 count, and I think it's going to turn out beautifully. And that sounded a little bit snotty, and I don't mean for it to sound snotty. It's just that for whatever reason I had developed this idea that Aida wasn't any good and I wasn't going to stitch on it, and I don't know. I'm sorry, I was wrong. And in fact, okay, so those are my 2 main lifts. I know I just talked about that. So my plans are to get Humans After All caught up to March so that I can be ready to stitch April when it comes out. We'll see if that happens. I'm planning to have the entire house unpacked by the end of the week. It's taking a lot longer because we had to get rid of all of our big furniture, which means we have no shelving or anything else. I kept 1 bookshelf out of the 6 that I had. So, and that was for sentimental reasons. My grandfather gave it to me. And yeah, so I mean, unpacking's taking a bit longer than we'd like because we're not going out and spending. We're going to get what we want this time around and not just whatever's the cheapest option out there. We have that ability to do that now, so that's what we're going to do. And so that may take a little bit. I say that to say that I may not get caught up with March by the end of March. My gosh, it's been a while and I forgot how much I chatter. So, and then Haid's kind of, I'll work on that. I think I'm going to go ahead and start just taking it out on the weekends. I know that's kind of counterintuitive to getting Humans After All caught up, but I also can't stitch on the same thing for the next 20 days. Like how there's only 20 days left of March. Okay, I have a very small bit of haul. Sorry for the crinkle, but I haven't taken it out of the package, so I'm not sorry about that. But I got my fabric of the month in from Hand Dyed Fabrics by Stephanie, and it's actually showing up pretty true to color. It's a little darker in real life, but I get 2 different cuts. I get 18 by 26 32 count linen, and then 18 by 26 16 count Aida. Just because I do enjoy still stitching 2 over 2, and I also enjoy stitching on Aida. And it's just that they dye so differently. Like, even though they're lighter, showing up lighter on the camera, you can see my candle in the reflection. But you can even tell the difference between this one is a lot darker than this one over here. The linen is darker than the Aida. So, but they're still both absolutely stunning. I love this. I have no idea what I'm going to put on them yet, but I like having a stash of hand dyes available to me. I'm trying to think of what else I wanted to talk about. There's definitely books. My watch just told me to breathe. Apparently I'm getting worked up. I'm knitting. So I joined 2 of the clubs that Jimmy Bean's Wool has. That's actually what's supporting my camera right now because my tripod broke sometime last year. And my husband's tripod is much too tall for where I set up because it's actually just on my desk. That hasn't changed. And one of them is, I think it's called the Granny Blanket. It started in January, so I have 2 boxes now. And it seems to be quite a bit above my skill level. I figured a blanket would be kind of easy. Nope. So, I also have their monthly knit club, which is, I think every 3 months they have a new project. So my last one just came in the mail last night. I think I got it yesterday. And I think they'll start a new one in April. And basically each month they send you instructions and enough yarn to complete that section for the month. And I think this one was a shawl. And now, since I realized that my knitting skills were not high enough to do the blanket with ease, I have started trying to expand my skill set, but I don't have a place to go to learn. So a lot of it is online learned, which I know a lot of people do. So I know that I'm not special in that way, but I didn't even know how to knit in the round. When I learned to knit, I did Knit Picks Learn to Knit courses. So there's 3 boxes that you buy. The first one teaches you how to knit dishcloths. The second one teaches you how to knit a scarf and change colors. And the third one teaches you how to knit a hat, but it's done on straight needles, not in the round. So I thought stitching or knitting in the round wasn't strictly necessary, that you could just straight stitch and then seam at the end, which I'm sure you probably actually still can, but you also need to know that skill. So now I'm working on a cowl, and I'll be sending that off to a book friend, and it's being done in like a unicorn yarn that I just picked up in Walmart just so I could start learning how to knit in the round. It was actually incredibly easy. So that's another skill set down. Now Knit Picks has a subscription. It's a Cratejoy subscription, and it teaches you some of the more advanced stuff so that you don't do what I did and just buy something thinking that you can do it and then finding out that you can't. So I'll be curious to see. It sends you the yarn, the needles, the instructions, any extra tools that you need. And so I am going to, my first one is on its way to me. I haven't gotten it yet, so I'm pretty excited about that. So I'm knitting and stitching at night. The cowl that I'm working on is 220 stitches round, and I try to get, there's 4 rounds, and I try to get a full set in each day. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes I just try to get to a spot where I know where I'm at with my little row counter, and it's just a, I don't even know what it's called, but the first round is all knit, the second round is purl, slip, purl, repeat to the end, the third row is knit, the 4th row is slip, purl, slip until you get to the end. So it's fairly easy. It's just time consuming because it is 220 stitches, which seems like an awful lot. Maybe that's beginner stats, I don't know. So that is it for the crafting part. So if you want to zone out now or just, you know, be done, that's completely fine. But I'm going to talk about books next. So stick around if you want to. I'm kind of hoping to do this weekly. So we'll see how it goes though, because it's been pretty choppy so far. And I am still commuting every other week. So maybe it'll be an every other week thing, because when I do commute those 2 days, it gets a little bit hectic. But that's a lot to go into. So I've finished 3 books this week. Is that right? I think so. 3 books this week. Lots of free time when you're new to town and it's winter. So I finished up The Shadow Cabinet by Maureen Johnson. This is the 3rd book in the series. It's called the Shades of London series. And in the first book, The Name of the Star, we are with Rory, short for Aurora. And she is a Louisiana girl in an English world. She's going to a private school in London because her parents are doing a year of teaching in London. They are lawyers, and it's her senior year, I think it is. Maybe her junior year, I'm not positive. But she's in private school. And when she's having dinner one night, she chokes. And somebody ends up doing the Heimlich on her. But after that, things kind of change for her. And this is about the whole series is about, I don't want to give too much away because I don't want to ruin the first book. But basically, just know that there are ghosts and mysteries and super cliffhanger endings. Now, I will also tell you so that you can make this decision for yourself. I thought, since this was the 3rd book, and I believe it was originally published in let's see here, 2015. So it's been almost 4 years. I thought this was the last book, and she's publishing a different series. So I'm thinking, okay, trilogy, we're good. Good deal. Cliffhanger ending, no 4th book. At least no 4th book yet. But the series is pretty good. I mean, I enjoyed the story. I'd read it again. I just really hope that she wraps the story up at some point because it's basically wide open. And this is the 3rd book. I think I've mentioned that. Just putting it right there. So then after that, don't laugh. I was born in 1984. This is serious nostalgia. I have no regrets and I'm going to keep doing it. If you want to laugh, go ahead, get it out. But I don't want to hear it. So something that I decided to do in October, I think it was, they released the first 6 books in a collector's tin. And I grew up in a small town, population 3,500 at its biggest before the industrial collapse in our area. And this was pre-internet days. I know you guys remember them. So interlibrary loans weren't as easy, and they certainly did not do them for 10-year-olds. I never got to read every book in the series. And when you're a perfectionist, you kind of got to. And let me tell you, these books, you can just tell that they were written in a different time. And sometimes I don't know whether to laugh or to cry because I read the first 6 books and then I'm like, these are actually really obviously not great works of fiction, but I'm enjoying myself and I'm an adult and I don't care. I'm going to do it if I want to do it. I have a book blog, Once Upon a Chapter. And I decided to read one of these a week because there's like over 150 some odd of these books. And then if you consider the super specials and the mystery series and the super mystery series and then the biographies and then the portraits, and I'd be reading them for I could very easily read one a week for 2 years and still be working through them. So one a week, they take like 2 hours out of a day to read. They're max 145 pages, and they provide a serious amount of nostalgia. In one of the super specials that I read, you could absolutely tell that it was pre 9/11 because they were talking about going into the cockpit and seeing the pilot while they were flying, and I'm like, no, that would never happen now. And and that they had to do that in order to get their wings. And I mean, I don't even know if kids still get those. I don't know if that's a thing, but this is pre-cell phone days. This is pre-internet. It's just, ugh. Who didn't want to live in Stony Brook when they were my age? Let me just tell you, if you're my age and you read these books when you were little, I wanted to be a babysitter so bad. Tried to start my own club, but I didn't have my own damn phone line. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. This is my nostalgia read this week. I'm actually one behind. So, Mallory and the Trouble with Twins. And I'm telling you, I don't know why I wanted to be a babysitter, because maybe little Stephanie was a lot more patient than me, than she has become, because if I had to deal with these twins, I would have never gone back, and I would have been having a word with their mom. Oh, and that's another thing. Like, I don't know, because I wasn't an adult in the 80s, early 90s. Wasn't even remotely close to an adult. But in one of them, Claudia is babysitting for a prankster who ends up breaking her leg. And I can't even imagine how that would go down now. With helicopter parents. And I mean, this woman was just like out the door, bye, see ya. And never heard from again in the book. And I don't know, it's real weird. So it kind of, oh, there's a bookmark. Is this not the cutest bookmark? I got it on Etsy. Anyway, sorry. So they're great palette cleansers. Also, I'm really excited to be able to finish this series. So I go ahead and order the books. Like, I should start ordering April's books now, because it takes a little bit to get them. I use Paperback Swap because right now that's the cheapest source for them. They are $3.99 each on the Kindle, and that's not awful considering I'm reading one a week. That's not that bad. But I don't know, they just look prettier. So that was my nostalgia read for this week. Then I finished a book, and I don't have the physical copy of it because it is an advanced reader copy, and it was a Kindle book, and it is for Robin Carr's new book that's coming out next month, and it's called The View from Alameda Island. And this was a really good book. I like Robin Carr. I'm actually working through her Virgin River series since I found out that it was going to be made into, Virgin River is going to be Netflix. 10-part series on Netflix. I just canceled my subscription before I found that out. So when those start, I'm going to have to renew, because all of the bookish things, it's like Netflix finally figured out that book people will pay you money if you do a good job producing their books into TV shows, movies, whatever. They're figuring it out. So The View from Alameda Island was really, really good. It's about a woman who is later on in life deciding to divorce her manipulative, abusive husband. And it was interesting to read. I've had this discussion with a friend because she's in a similar situation, and it breaks my heart. And she says that she's staying for the children, and I'm here to tell you that your children know more about what's going on in your life, and they see what's going on more than you give them credit for. And there was just this part early on in the book where the mother and daughter had that discussion, and it just, it was not an easy read. Definitely went into domestic violence, went into the ugliest things a person can get into when you're in the middle of that kind of a situation. And basically it just kind of hung in there through the entire process and everything that happened to this woman. And of course it's Robin Carr, so there's a romantic element to the story. And basically, I just thought it was really well done. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Actually, I think all of these got 4 out of 5. So apparently I'm pretty easy to please right now. But yeah, it was really good. I will have a full review on my blog later, closer to publication, because it does come out next month. But yeah, it was good. So since I give you my plans for stitching, and stitching and reading are really the 2 biggest things in my life. They have been for several years. But when I got into FlossTube the first time around, I was in deep, and my reading kind of took a back seat. And now I got nothing but time. So I can split that more evenly between the 2. I mean, I've already read 3 books. I read 3 books last week. I realize it's Wednesday now. My days get mixed up. So between Tuesday? No. Wait a minute. Hold on. Nope. That's a lie. It really has been 3 books in a week. Gosh. Never mind. I keep forgetting that today is Wednesday. And then I also keep forgetting when I actually finished that. And I finished that on Thursday. It's been a week. We're good. So what's coming up this week? Well, like I told you, I am 2 books behind, or a book behind on my reread. This book is apparently very difficult to find in paper copy because I ended up buying it for $5 on Amazon Marketplace, and I went back just to kind of, I think I needed to go back to pull a cover if you really want to know the truth, and it's now selling for $70. I don't know if that's the Babysitters Club announcement having anything to do with it, which better not be, because I'm only on 20, I just finished 21. I have so many more to read. Better not flood the market. I'll just buy the Kindle versions, I guess, if it comes down to it. So to get caught up, I need to read Jessie Ramsey, Pet Sitter, and then Dawn on the Coast. And I mean, you can tell that these books have been loved. This one, and I'm not going to flash the inside of it because who knows, but this one has this little girl's full name, her city, state, and zip, and her phone number. And this one was very clearly Anne's, as she has wrote her name here and up here, and her full name is in here too. Boy, little girls. And I know I did the same thing. I know I did. Because you know why? It was the 80s and we had no idea about what privacy meant. Nothing. Ever. Pre-internet, I'm telling you. Actually, this one might be 89. I don't think I've crossed into the 90s publications yet. Yep, it's 89. Also, I found out because of the new Netflix announcement that Anne and Martin only wrote 35 of the actual books, and then everything after that apparently was ghostwritten. Didn't know that, but it makes so much sense as an adult when you know how much goes into it. And I'm beginning to wonder if I'll see a different style once I get past what Anne wrote herself. If I'll notice the difference, or if they got a really good ghostwriter who picked up on her tone and all that. So then I know I'm going to get those 2. Like I said, they take 2 hours. I'm probably going to knock this one out tonight once I get off of here and get this uploaded. Then I'm going to read On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. And this is just released in February. And I read her book, The Hate You Give. The Hate You Give was getting a ton of hype on Twitter. Twitter tends to be kind of toxic. It's really great, and then sometimes it really sucks. But this was one of the great things that came out of Twitter because Angie's first book, The Hate You Give, was getting so many reviews. I was like, you know what? I'll check it out from the library. Which, by the way, I really miss my Illinois library system badly. It's a completely different situation over here. basically in Illinois, if I wanted a book and it was in the lower portion of Illinois, which was basically from 4 hours of Chicago south, if it was anywhere in Illinois, I could get it for free using my library card. And that was that. That is not how it works here, and I'm not even going to go into it because it's too many rules. But let's just say I have a healthy respect for the Illinois library system, and I actually found out that you can purchase a card from the Brooklyn, New York Public Library. It's $50 a year, and then that gives you access to their ebook collection, which has over 30,000 titles. It's massive, and it has started to already pay for itself. I imagine I'm going to reap the benefits of well over $50. All of that to go back to, I borrowed it from the Illinois Library, The Hate U Give, and it is, I don't know how to explain it, because it's not the Black Lives Matter movement, but one of the very first things that happens is in the first chapter or two that a young black man is shot, making sure that his passenger, who is the main character of the book, Star, making sure that she's okay, and the police officer thought he was reaching for a weapon. And I don't really want to get into that because it is a very heated topic. What I will say is that this book gave me a different perspective. There are problematic parts to our system, and what this did is it shone a light on how things could maybe get better, or how we could do better. And it was so eye-opening, having grown up in a small white community with two black families that ended up being just one black family. By the time I actually graduated high school, the other family moved away. And that was my diversity. That was it. So having gone from a small farm town with that kind of ratio to reading a book about The Hate U Give, it was absolutely nothing but educational. It was one of the better reads that I have ever read. It's young adult, and it was on the #1 spot for the young adult bestseller list for almost 2 years, and it was only knocked out of position by this book when it was released. And even then, after this book had been released, I think it was #1 for maybe a week or two, and then The Hate U Give knocked this one out and was back in the #1 position. So it's a very good book, and if you are open, even if you're not open to it, I would challenge you to read it, because it was very educational, very well done, and I'm very excited to read on the come up. From what I understand, it's not the same cast of characters. It's a different young adult woman, woman. She's 16, so not quite a girl, not quite a woman. She's in between, but it's her story, and it involves hip hop. And if I remember correctly, I've seen Angie tweet about Tupac and Biggie Smalls, so that you may see some of the some of their influence in this book, is what I was trying to say. The Hate U Give obviously was kind of an homage to Tupac, so that's on the list. And I have access to the audiobook version, so I'm hoping that'll help speed things along. And then I'm going to read the second book in the Chronicles of the One series by Nora Roberts. It's Of Blood and Bone, and I also have the audiobook for this. The first book was called Year One, and it is well, let's just first and foremost say it's Nora Roberts. She makes up her own genres, I swear to God, but they're wonderful. The first one is dystopian, but also magical realism. So like, and it wasn't, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's definitely kind of post-apocalyptic, hence the dystopian genre. But then there's also magic in it, but not solely magic. So it's not, I don't know, it was real good. That's all you need to know. It's Nora Roberts. It's a new book. Year one was really good. So this one came out in December. So I'm kind of getting caught up on my authors this week. So it's been probably about an hour by the time I get some of this cut down. It's good to be back. Glad I got to talk at you for a little bit. I'm hoping, I know next Wednesday I'm going to be back in Illinois. Maybe. Is it? Sometime next week. I'm going to be back in Illinois. And then I also am going to see My Favorite Murder live in Des Moines. And I can't tell you how excited I am about that. Since I've started working from home, I have been I've been trying to get caught up because I just found them mid last year, I think it was. And just found podcasts in general because of the cross-stitching community. And My Favorite Murder was one of the recommendations, and it did take me a little bit to start to enjoy them. And now I'm trying to get their backlog caught up before the show. I'm finally in January of 2019 listening on speed and a half, which is not usually too bad until they get excited about something. Honestly, speed and a half sounds like a normal conversation until they get excited about something, and then they start to talk really fast. But so we're going to the live show on the 23rd, and I get to meet them. I was lucky enough to score 2 seats, so my mom and I are going to go see them and do the meet and greet, and I can't tell you how excited I am. So very excited. So I think that's it for me. I will try to get in next week, but I know it's not going to be exactly a week. It probably won't be until next weekend. So yeah, that's all I've got for you. It's been a long time, and I can't wait to get reacquainted with all of you. Until next time, I hope the stitching gods are good to you.